Lots of people are talking about their predictions for Baselworld this year, especially around Rolex. So I thought I'd share my ideas with you. And I'm really concerned that Rolex are going to just cook up the Submariner this year. Welcome to Bark and Jack, I am Adrian, and today we are looking at the predictions for Baselworld. I'm not going to be talking about that many brands, I'm just going to be focusing on the main brands, which everyone else is talking about. We've got Rolex, Tudor and Patek. If you want to support the channel, then please hit that subscribe button down there and jump over to barkandjack.shop and check out the watch straps that we have over there. I'm going to tell you what I would personally like the brands to launch at Baselworld this year, but then I'm going to also tell you what I think they're actually going to do at Baselworld. Of course, this is all just made up. No one knows what's going on, although I do know what Patek watches are going to be discontinued. I don't know how public that information is. As an overall idea, I really think this is going to be a massive year for both Tudor and Rolex. Last year, there wasn't all that much going on. We had a couple of interesting launches from both Tudor and Rolex, but there weren't any real showstoppers. This year, I think, is going to be big for both of those. Tudor, I think, as a brand, they're going to carry on going down that route of being more directed at the enthusiast. And what I mean by that is they're going to do things that we want them to do. For example, they launched a blackbay 58. That was exactly what a lot of people within the community wanted. And the blackbay 58 was a massive success for Tudor. It'd be utterly stupid if they didn't build on that. I can see Tudor bringing out another color variation of the 58. I could see them bringing out a green version of it, and I could absolutely see them bringing out a date function on the 58 as well. I'd also expect for them to roll out more of their in-house movements in the other watches. Some of the watches are still powered by ETA movements. I wouldn't be surprised if they had to bulk buy those ETA movements and they just happen to be running out of those ETA movements and then transition into using more of their in-house movements. As an overall watchmaking thing, I prefer slimmer watches, so it would be nice for them to develop an in-house movement that is slimmer so they don't have to have such chunky cases, although this is a lower mid-tier watch company, so I think what they're doing so far is pretty damn good. With regards to them bringing back a Submariner, I really can't. I think Tudor is already stepping on Rolex's toes too much. I think if they're to bring back the Tudor Submariner, that would just be too close for Tudor and Rolex. So I think they'd carry on with the Black Bay range in its current form, just create further iterations of it. Onto Rolex, I get lots of questions about people asking, do you think Rolex is going to bring back a 36mm Explorer? The answer is no, I don't think they are going to bring back a 36mm Explorer 1, but I would love them to. I'd love them to bring back a new modern version of the 36mm Explorer. Use a modern movement in it, use the latest Explorer dial with the hollow numerals with the superluminova in the middle of it, and then also have the updated bracelet. I think that would be absolutely incredible. And then to do it in two dial variations, to have a black dial and a white dial as well. That would just be absolutely incredible. But I don't think they'll ever do that. So unfortunately, I don't think the Explorer is going to be touched, especially considering it was updated last year. 2018. It was updated in 2018, so I don't think it's in line for another update. I also don't think the Explorer 2 is going to be updated either. I did go to a Rolex event late last year, and the whole event was about the Explorer range, and which was really quite surprising. It was being treated as a flagship watch. So they're obviously drumming up hype around the Explorer range, and there is something big that's going to happen, but I don't think it's going to be this year. Next year is going to be the 50th anniversary for the Explorer 2, and that will be when they drop something. I would like for them to drop something absolutely incredible. It'd be nice if they did something very Steve McQueen inspired, because that's my favourite version of the Explorer 2. Now for the Submariner. The Submariner is so in line for an update. And the Submariner is currently powered by the 3135 movement, which is it's a workhorse of a movement. It's old, but it's a good workhorse of a movement. Compared to what technology is out now, with Rolex alone, let alone what other people are doing, this movement does now look outdated. The 3235, which is in the GMT now, that has a higher power reserve. It's got 3 days of power reserve, and it's also just more accurate and more hard wearing than the older 3135. So I won't put money on it, but I am so sure that they're going to be updating, at least updating the movement in Submariner. I would quite like, and I do think it's time for the Submariner to actually be updated as a whole unit. It's been 10 years since the launch of the ceramic Submariner, and the GMT, when they launched the Jubilee bracelet, they actually updated the case ever so slightly, but it was updated. So I do think that the Submariner should be updated now, especially if they're going to be launching the new movement. Now this is where I think Rolex are going to cock it up. No, let me tell you what I'd like them to do first. I'd like them to keep the case size as it is, a 40mm case, but reduce the lugs. They don't need this kind of faux large watch look about it. I've grown to like it over time because I've just seen it so much. It doesn't look like the icon that it used to be. So I'd like to see them slim down those lugs and bring back more of that curvaceous case. Pretty much leave everything else. Everything else is absolutely fine about the watch. I'm not a massive fan of the shiny ceramic bezel, but it also has nice tones to it. So actually it would just be the lugs for me, but keep it at a 40mm. Problem is, I think they're actually going to ruin the Submariner by increasing the size. I really wouldn't be surprised if they launched a 42mm Submariner. They could keep the lugs the same size as they are, but just increase the overall size of the watch, and therefore making the lugs appear to be slimmer because the actual size of the watch is larger. The Daytona, the Submariner and the GMT are all kind of the poster boy flagship watches. I'd probably say in that order as well, with the Daytona being right at the top as the big poster boy Rolex. Then you've got the Submariner, then you've got the GMT, and probably the Sea Dweller sitting on the side over here. They've already increased the size of the Sea Dweller, they increased the size of the Air King, the Datejust, the Day-Date, the Explorer 2, the Explorer, all of those watches have been increased. So they've already tested the market by increasing those watches, so it might be time for them to test the market by increasing the Submariner case. And this is what I mean by Tudor being more of the enthusiasts brand and Rolex being more of the trendsetter. I feel Rolex is looking forward and making changes and kind of leading the pack, whereas Tudor is back here looking back, looking at what vintage things happened and then pulling those trends forward. So I feel Tudor is more of an enthusiast. It's not really a clear cut, but I think you get what I mean. They are tapping into the kind of emotional things and the stuff that us enthusiasts like, whereas Rolex is just straight up ignoring what we like and kind of just going on its own. And that's where I see the big differences between Rolex and Tudor. So what I'd like is for Rolex to launch a Submariner with a new movement inside the 32-35 and then reduce the size of the lugs and bring back some of that iconic look about the watch. Unfortunately, I don't think they're going to do that. I do think they're going to launch the new movement, but I actually think they're going to make the case more bulky. Just a hunch. Probably a really pessimistic hunch though. I think Daytonas are going to stay the same. I think the Sea Dweller range is going to stay the same. I think everything else is pretty much going to be left alone. I'm not really bothered about the Datejusts and all of that. They've all been updated. So I think the focus this year is really going to be on the Submariner, and then the next year is going to be the year for the Explorer range. Now for Patek, they are discontinuing two of my favourite watches. I wouldn't buy them, but they're two watches that I absolutely love, and one of them I see all the time, and maybe that's why they're discontinuing it, because it's always in the shop. Anyway, they're discontinuing the white dial 5711. This dial variation is really quite different from the others. It has such an epically sporty vibe about it compared to the sporty dressy look of the other variants. So it's kind of not surprising that this one's being discontinued, because it really does stand out. I haven't got a clue what they're going to do. I don't know enough about Patek to kind of guess what they're going to do. Other people can talk about that stuff. What I'd like for them to do is launch a new white dial, but without the lines. Just have a nice flat white dial, really striking black hour markers and hands, but just have a really nice flat dial. I've got a thing for white dials at the moment. And they're also discontinuing the 5960, which is one of my favourite Pateks, but I do see this a lot. I see this is one of the watches that I've probably seen the most, apart from just the standard Calatravas. This is a watch that I probably see the most at Patek ADs. I haven't got a clue what they're going to replace this thing with. It's just really sad to see this thing going. Patek have a knack for making very, very complicated watches look really quite simple. This thing has pretty much everything packed into it, yet it's all so legible and it just doesn't feel cluttered in the slightest. It's such an awesome watch. Guys, there are my thoughts on Baselworld this year. Of course, there are so many other brands doing lots of things, but these are the talking points, these brands. And it's really cool to see a brand at the price level of Tudor being so hyped up and so kind of accepted by the community. A community that historically is quite snobby and only looks at very expensive watches. I mean, £2,000-3,000 is a huge amount of money, but within the watch world, within the watch level, it's not masses. So it's cool to see so much hype and so much excitement around that level of watch. I'm going to be going to Watches and Wonders and Baselworld this year, so I'm going to be capturing as much as I can of this stuff. The channel certainly isn't big enough for me to get first dibs and kind of get first sight on a lot of pieces, but nonetheless I'll be covering what is launched over there. Guys, I hope you liked this video. Do share it with your watch geeky mates if you did like it, and hit that subscribe button down the bottom there if you like the style of this video, because this is how things are done, kind of. Usually walk around sometimes. Anyway, hit the subscribe button down the bottom there. Let me know in the comments as well what you think is going to be going on at Baselworld. If you want to support the channel, jump over to barkandjack.shop and check out the watch straps that we have over there. If you like watch photography, give me a follow on Instagram at barkandjack, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.